So, my name is Philip Martin, and I'm the co owner of Philip Martin Gallery here in Los Angeles with Portia Hine. And I hope you've had a chance to meet Portia either at the gallery or at the fairs. We just did Art Basel Miami Beach, which is one of the occasions for this webinar. And it's really exciting to talk about the solo presentation that we did there with Sophie Treppendahl, who's joining us this morning. And then we'll also talk about a few other pieces here. Sophie, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Normally I'd be joining from my studio, but my art son is sick, which is just part of life of having a kid at daycare. So if you hear my husband and him in the background later on, just you know, it'll be a nice addition to my chaotic life.
Well, it also is fun because, of course, your domestic environment is often a part of your paintings,
Yeah,
and your life is always a part of your paintings. So maybe there's
definitely.
something apropos there for
It's true.
this particular situation. Our lives are always a part of what we're doing. So here is the booth in Miami. It was really exciting. Sophie was chosen for a pretty competitive section called the cabinet section, which is a solo presentation within the booth. And that gave us an opportunity to put together a body of work, and it's a curated section. Do you want to talk a little bit about your thinking behind it? I mean, we had a title that we had sort of chosen and worked on, and then over time it evolved. So I don't know where you might want to go with talking about the body of work or what's on your mind.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, a body of work starts with just where am I in life, and it ends up developing over time.
Mhm.
This was the main show that I was working on this year, and because I had a son at the end of last year, my time was limited, and my brain has pretty much been consumed with him and with the state of the world. So this
Uh-huh.
show ended up being, it's similar subjects to my past. It's still I have some bits of interiors from my own life, from my studio, from my home. As you can see, my home is full of clutter, like my paintings. My birthday sign from our son's birthday 2 months ago. Um, but this work all has snippets of what's going on in my brain.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think the title was O Sole Mio, which I sort of chose quickly and at random because we had to submit the proposal. But
Mhm.
it's just a song it's a song by Pavarotti that my husband sang to our son constantly when he was a newborn and he was trying to lull him to sleep. And it would occasionally get some of his first laughs. And so this work is just really nostalgic and really close to my heart. And it also has bits of politics and other things I was thinking about this year as I made the work in the studio.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit more about a painting like the one that we're looking at, how it comes together, and how all those different currents maybe are functioning in it as we prepare to look through some work?
Yeah, so this painting started how some of my paintings do when I have a blank canvas. I'm like, where I want to go with this? And I used this similar table that I've used in a painting in the past. The pink table is the shape from a Matisse painting called Marble Table. There's
Mhm.
something about that color and that shape that just feels like a good starting point.
Mhm.
So I started with that, and then all of the objects on the table are things from my studio. This mocha pot, the green and red one, my husband gave it to me years ago. You can play Where's Waldo and I think find it in almost every painting. But this piece is just a still life that I assembled actually on my studio trash can because I didn't have this actual pink table. And it's a combination of domestic things like a bowl of fruit and these sort of classic things we might see in, a Matisse painting or a classic still life
Mhm.
painting. And it has postcards and snippets of art. I include art in my paintings and other paintings that are where my brain is. So the paintings on my mind as I made this were this is the Amy Sherald piece
Mhm.
of the trans woman posing as the Statue of Liberty that was
Mhm.
removed from the Smithsonian because of the Trump administration.
Yep.
This painting behind it is a painting by Leon Golub of police
Mercenaries.
brutality.
Hmm.
And then there's a painting of Alice Neal holding, or it's Alice Neal painting of a mother and child
Hmm.
holding each other dear. And just these were the things that were in my mind. And so
Hmm.
each painting has, if you look closely at each painting within the painting,
Yep.
you'll see that there's a little bit of that. I'm sorry, I have a package at the door. Give me one
Sounds
second.
good.
Thank you. It's a birthday gift for our Christmas gift from our son, from my mother-in-law. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how this painting came together. Sometimes I often have it's often the act of me painting because it just feels very meta to be painting while I'm painting. And
Yep.
I honestly didn't know what to put on the paper at that point in that piece because that's how I felt a bit with these paintings. There's so much in my mind, I don't even know where to start. So it felt a bit reflective of that.
Well, we're always accompanied by our minds.
Yes, very
Um,
much.
I really think it's interesting as a viewer kind of going through the work with you because, of course, our minds start to kind of overlap with yours and we start to see things we recognize, not only from things that we've looked at in your paintings, but also things that we might share in common and experiences. Um, what does it feel like to sort of be talking with your experience, so to speak, by painting the things around you, seeing what's happening in your experience by the objects you choose, maybe having made a painting a year ago, and then maybe kind of continuing with that, or putting that green bowl out one more time. Like, do you want to talk about some of that stuff?
I mean, to be honest, every time I do a painting, I'm convinced I'll never do a good painting again. It's a funny thing. I think other artists might be the same way.
Yeah.
The fact that every painting feels like a miracle when it comes together, because I honestly, the act of painting is the act of resisting against my own insecurities if I'm able to make a painting. That
Sure.
sounds really silly, but some artists I think come from a place of confidence of I have something that I have to say and the world needs to see it. And for me, my work comes from a place of what am I trying to say? And it comes together on the canvas. And I feel honestly just honored that anyone is interested in knowing about that. Um, like these paintings, like this one came from a place of just like trying to channel coziness of home. It's loosely inspired. Almost all the interiors have mantles in them because in New Orleans, every home has a mantle in every room.
Yeah.
So this one's sort of inspired by the room that I'm in. It's our dining room. But yeah, it's this one's a puzzle of snippets of things. It has a wedding photo of my grandparents in it. It has a favorite Matisse portrait in it. It has a self-portrait. Uh, their paintings are like a meditation. And this one was done with wax, which was a really fun
Yes, it's an
meditative process
encaustic
for me
painting.
to
That's
do.
right.
Mhm.
One thing you said too is that you really like to keep the viewer moving, keep their eyes moving through the painting. I
Mhm.
always really like that. That was a comment that you made. And I'm always seeing new things. Like I'm actually just for the first time seeing that the coffee pot that was in the previous painting is in this painting.
It's in
Um,
almost every one because I just need like a pop of red or orange sometimes.
yeah,
And it's like that coffee pot, it just really scratches the edge.
I really like that. I can imagine unscrewing it. I think that one thing too in this painting is that the eye is often moving around the pictures as we sort of were saying by virtue of all the things to look at. But this is an interesting one because with the lighting of the candles, there's actually this sense as you move around the painting that perhaps that movement is actually tied into an action, which is the action of the protagonist.
Mhm.
Does that resonate with you at all, or in this particular work?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my paintings have no figures at all. And I think that over the last 2 years, figures have been showing up a lot more in my paintings.
Hmm.
And I've painted a similar piece to this before of like a dark room. It was green and patterned, of a dining room with candles. I really wanted to see if I could have a figure in there doing an action,
Yeah.
but almost have them disappear. And yeah, I just feel like lighting a candle. As I thought through the painting at the end, I was like, okay, wait, the dinner party's over. Why am I lighting the candles at the end of the dinner party? Um, but I figured that that's kind of when the party just keeps going, and that's when the
Yeah.
Amaro comes out and the ice cream. So I figured that it still made sense.
It's like the second party, or you're
Exactly.
unlighting the
Honestly, a
candle.
sign of a good party is one that goes on for a second and third phase.
So when
So
you talk about the kind of neuroses, well, I don't know what was the word you used. I think neuroses is so judgmental. Maybe that's unfair, but kind of the blocks. We see these things. Is there a point where maybe into the painting those blocks are kind of eroding as you're
Mhm.
not repressing what you're thinking, but rather your thoughts are changing as they're being refigured by this new reality, and you're like, whoa, this painting's maybe kind of going somewhere. Is there a
Yeah,
point where you kind of hit something that's unexpected or that you didn't know you could do? Like how does that function within the work, or does it?
yeah, there's a click at some point in the painting, and it's typically about 80% of the way through. And at that point, that's when it goes on the side in the timeout, or I get this
Ooh.
new excited boost of confidence. I have so many timeout paintings, and I wish
Time
that I
out.
could tell you that I kept them. But honestly, sometimes there's months of negative energy in them that I
Yeah.
cut the canvas out because I just can't even have it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but that said,
Yeah.
so this painting, it was in a rough stage for a bit. It felt a little bit, I had to, this painting was rough. I couldn't get the texture on the wall right. So I actually painted the entire wall white after having it and then redid the color so that I could get the right texture. And
Right.
the time when the painting finally came together was, you will also see this in multiple of them. It's this blue fabric on the chair.
Yeah.
That is a fabric that I have in my studio that I painted with a pattern from the Matisse Pink Studio painting. It's in a
Yeah.
couple of his paintings too.
Yeah.
And whenever I laid that on the chair, it all of a sudden felt, that was when the click happened. I was like, oh, it needed that there. And it somehow, I started to see everything come together. And this one I changed the paintings on the books a few times. It ends up
Hmm.
having, it has Frida Kahlo on the book underneath. It has Carrie James Marshall on the book on top. It
Hmm.
has a piece from Jacob Lawrence's Migration series.
Right.
And then oh my gosh, what is Pam Paula Beckerson,
Oh yeah.
Paula Becker.
Is it Mendelssohn Becker? Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Moderson Becker. I
Yeah.
was like, I've written her name so many times, and
Sure.
that's the book there. So
Yeah.
those items had to change, but I needed them all to have an emotional significance. And when I
Yeah.
got the right balance of them, I was like, okay, I think this one's not going in the trash pile.
And so when you're talking about adding the cloth to the chair, you're not necessarily standing in this room because you arrange in the flatbed and you're working with it. So is that chair's in the studio and then you're kind of so you're painting it in the studio off a chair off of it on the chair in the studio and then dropping it into
Mhm.
the scene, or
Yeah.
yeah, because it's
Yeah, so this
interesting because I think a problem that a lot of still life painters can run into is this perception that they have to have the thing in front of them to be able to get the information for what they're going to paint. And of course, that's an issue. But at the same time, it's interesting how you just start to know things. Like you start to know what that coffee pot looks like, and it's like part of you, and you can use it to put that feeling of yourself, so to speak, as we've talked about eroding these blocks, like to put that just into that place, or does that resonate or in any way?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in 2019, so I've painted for a long time and I always painted from photos and had a hard time jumping from them. I could jump with
Yeah,
colors, but not with the place. And in 2019 was the first time I started staging my own still lifes and changing stuff in the studio. And I remember
right.
my husband at the time, boyfriend, he was the one that remarked, like, wait, that was a really big deal.
Yeah,
You changed that. You set that up and you changed the colors. Do you recognize that that was a big deal? And
yeah,
it was so funny. He's not an artist. And I was like, wait. I think you just did notice something really big. And I think
Yeah,
about that often, that it was this interesting thing of taking control and realizing that I am not privy to either the reality of something or a found photo, which is what I often painted from.
yeah,
But I'm not only control of setting something up, but like, that fabric is going over that chair and it was not in the room when I took that photo, but it's
yeah,
just about um for me, honestly, and if you look at the paintings, are the angles correct? Is the lighting always perfect? There's an imperfection in the reality. I could never paint photorealistically if I tried, but it's all, honestly, they're all more of a collage than they are of a still life.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's this feeling that with, we're of a generation where you can paint from photo, and then of course with people like Richter or Estes or whatever you want to say, there's lots of people that paint from photos in these very specific ways. But then photo is its own language of information, and it's, as we know, and it's a very different language of information. And so I think as the artist, it's an interesting kind of example of all the languages of information that any source can provide, whether it's coming from your imagination or from a photo or something directly in
Mhm.
front of you. And then you kind of have to get to this point when you're like, okay, I'm having this conversation with the art object that's about what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I won't be there to explain it to the viewer, so I'm just going to create this structure that we can participate in together, and then when they see it,
Right.
they're going to get to do that stuff on their own. So there is this kind of amazing give and take, back and forth.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to be confined by the objects that I own or that are in my own house. Like if
Right.
I only stuck with reality, I mean, you would just be seeing this room over and over again with the same
Right.
objects, and I'm not going to rehang my wall and put a million nails in it every time I want to switch a painting.
Yeah.
So I think just like it feels a lot more liberating. And also, both my mom and my sister are architects, and I think that I've
Oh,
always
I didn't know
watched
that.
them. No space is static. Every space, my mom is, every time I'm there, the chairs are in a different place. Everything is
Oh,
different.
that's
And
interesting.
I think that for me, I do that on the canvas. It's just
Yeah.
constantly rearranging.
Well, yeah, you could do this kind of composing in the flatbed, which is famously a description of how Rauschenberg worked.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great painting. We should really talk about it because this is kind of, I think, the generative painting in some sense for the whole thing. Having now met your son for the first time, he's a big guy.
He's a lot bigger than he was in this painting. Yeah.
He's pretty big in this painting too. When you look at him, you're like, "That's a big baby." And I also like how you're wearing kind of this jumpsuit that's really like worker with a capital W, which I think is really interesting and exciting. And one of the things that we talked about in the press release was that your work is about being a working mom, and in your case, being a painter is your job. And so, these questions that working moms have, and how we're going to, how you live your life, how you do all these things, especially also at this time. This painting is called How Can I Protect You, which is, of course, something I think that everyone is wondering about, and I hope that everyone is safe at this time. This is a really generative, intense painting. And also another thing about it that's interesting is that the color range in this one is more like this. And I had this weird thought where I was looking at it and I suddenly started thinking about Whistler's Nocturnes. And
Mm.
I said that to someone, and then they were like, yeah, it's like Whistler and Fairfield Porter. And I was like, that's so
I
crazy.
mean, I'll take it.
I know, right? I love that. So sorry, I don't know if that resonates or if you want to just, or could tell us a little bit about this picture.
Yeah, this was the first painting of the group that came together. It was one of those paintings that happened quickly, um, because it felt important. I don't
Yeah.
know. A lot of paintings take a while to come together, and this one didn't. It felt like it was already existed. Um, yeah, it was for the first few months of my son's life. I took a few months at home to be with him, but was still going to the studio a bit and finishing paintings. And at the time I switched all to non-toxic materials. I
Right.
do have Gamsol back in my studio now, but I will say if anyone's an oil painter, they're like, what was she doing? Just know that it was primarily acrylic and then some orange oil when I needed solvent. but he was coming to the studio with me, and I went back to the studio with him at the end of January, and that's when, you know, Trump came into office, and it just felt all of a sudden like
Yeah.
reality changed for everyone in the whole world.
Yeah.
And
And
I
in
was,
fact, his play area is down there in the lower corner.
yeah, so he was, before he could roll around and walk around, he would just lay on the ground. I had a big blanket down so he was away
Yeah.
from my mess.
Yeah.
And he would just kick his little toys while I
Yeah.
painted, and we listened to music or we listened to news, and it just felt like the most special place in the
Yeah.
world.
Sure.
But what is the world? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it just I think about this painting all the time, and I've heard from many, I when I've shared it online and with my family, a lot of moms felt like
Yeah.
it really resonated with a lot of people that were moms.
Yeah, I mean, it was a central painting for the presentation, and the person that ended up purchasing it really had this really powerful, strong reaction to it. And, I think it really felt like this was a moment, as you and I were working on this and trying to figure out what we're doing, and you were very supportive and kind of trusting and tolerant of me as your dealer as we're trying to negotiate this year, which has been really difficult for many people, not just politically, but in the art world itself.
Mhm.
And obviously, we have a lot of momentum, so things have gone really well, and people really respond to the work. But a big part of that, I think, was just your working through on your part, not only having a child, but also the political moment. And there
Mhm.
was this big moment of like finding, like, okay, we need to be doing a project this year. Like, you're a working mom, you have a family to support, and
Yeah.
like, how are we gonna find this momentum?
Mhm.
And that painting
Yeah.
and this project really felt like was how this all came together. And at this end of it, like heading towards the holidays and hopefully a strong 2026 for people, it's been really a lot this year, and it's been a lot to kind of work with you on this, which I really appreciate, and I think is worth noting for viewers. Like, if that these things hardness is good to put in art. I think it's what makes good art, and it's what art is about. And so here we have a lot of, there's some protest signs, there's all kinds of stuff going on in this
Mhm.
painting at the same time as you have this kind of Matisse feeling of space in the
Mhm.
studio and that kind of thing. I don't know if that any of that resonates, but that's a
It
comment.
totally does. I
Yeah.
mean, in transparency, like, yeah, I'm a working mom. We pay for daycare, we pay for private health insurance, and
Yeah.
like, I love doing what I do, but it can be a long time between shows, and I want to put every single ounce of what I have into the paintings, but real life is there, and there's a lot of distractions sometimes. And this
Yeah.
work took, I made less paintings that made it out of the timeout pile. I made a lot of paintings, but fewer paintings survived this year than ever have in a year, because it really took,
Mm.
my brain was too scattered. I had to take a couple of months off of social media and away from the news while this work came together, because I couldn't emotionally handle everywhere that I was. And I'm
Yeah.
happy that I did, and now I feel like I'm in a better place and I can pay attention more. But um, it's a lot just being a human right now. And this
Yeah.
painting was the one that really, there's so many things in here, and um, I this painting was in my studio for a while, and it kept changing. And the structure of it was actually from this. I don't know if it was originally a painting. I think it was a screen print that Alex Katz did. It's
Okay.
called Orange Interior. And
Okay.
this chair is in it. I changed the color, but he has a studio chair like that. And he has this really simple window on the right with the light coming in. And I copied his plant because I just love the little plant with the two leaves.
Yeah.
Um, my colors are different from his, but it was a really muted palette with an orange floor. And I love how clean that painting is. And
Yeah.
I was like, what's my version of it? And so yeah, and it was that, and then I just added a lot of things from my brain in there. So
Yeah. Well, we'll probably, if it's okay, we'll probably run over just a little bit. I like to do more like half an hour, but there's a lot of good stuff here, and we've still got some more stuff
of
to go
course,
through.
yeah.
And then if people want to add things to the chat, I'll kind of wrap that up at the end and take a look, and we can see kind of what's in there.
Oh, and
Um,
someone asked about the size of the painting. This is the largest one for what it's
oh
worth.
yeah, yeah, that's true. My apologies, we don't have that stuff here. And then I like the boiler suits kind of re come there, and there's a painting called In Love that's one of my favorite paintings with a lot of naked men in it, and that painting that's my favorite of all the painted boiler suits. It's a really good one. It's at the end of the slideshow, and I
Yeah.
can see it back here in that
Hmm.
corner.
And yeah, this one's just studio self-portrait
Yeah.
of it was similar to the work I made last year of just thinking about what it means to be a human body that carries a person. This was at the end of me breastfeeding, and it's just like, what does it mean to be a human with a body
Yeah.
existing in the world?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's an interesting thing because I think it's a really amazing time to be making art, you know? I mean, all my favorite movies are like dystopic, like late 70s movies. And I'm not saying that I'm happy with where things are, but I think it's really important for people to be able to be really honest about, you know, what they're seeing and that kind of stuff. So I really also really just appreciate the honesty in that. This is a spectacular painting. I love this painting. I love that it took me over a day to see the man over here,
Yes.
which is totally
That's great. I wanted to hide the
hilarious.
figures almost as much as possible in this.
Oh, I totally
A
did
lot of people
not.
didn't see the baby at first, so
I don't think I've seen the baby at all. Where's the baby?
in front of the figure, in front of the woman.
Oh my God. See, yeah, I haven't seen the baby. Well, I think what's really interesting is that so you did a painting that was in our show that I think of as coming from this Bonnard painting that's very long and has a mirror in it. And to me, this is kind of an addition to it. And in
It
that, I
is.
don't know if that's correct, but that's kind of my
It
sense.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
So
same room.
In that Bonnard painting, it's a kind of the woman's looking into the mirror, and in your work, there's this really amazing feeling of inside and outside. Not only do you see windows, and not only do they enter sort of via shape or line or perspective, the feeling of where walls might be, but then there's also the cast light, which is sort of here. And it's interesting then how adding a mirror to it as well as pictures, you've really like got a lot of different space stuff going on. So I think for me, I was kind of like really enjoying this intense casting here and
Mhm.
reading this and then kind of going through there and really enjoying this part. And somehow I had missed these corners
Exactly.
of
Yeah,
the
no, that was the
painting.
point.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't
That's
want
really
it,
awesome.
I didn't want it to be a mother, and I didn't like I wanted this painting to, in a similar work to my last show, like the reclining female is a classic, you know, trope essentially in art, primarily painted by men and about, women's bodies, and it's seen as classic, but it's also sexualized and all of these things. And I think this was a painting of me painting that, but also there's my husband in the room and there's my child in the room, and it is and there's like multiple photos of my son on the mirror. And so I think it's yeah, it's just a painting about, like, again, like the last one, about having a human body and carrying a
Yeah.
child. And this is when I'm still only a couple months after the child, and your body feels disorienting. Um, and this is my cluttered space. And I don't know, this painting took the longest to come together. I started this one I worked on over a period of 6 months, and every time I kept changing it and changing it.
Yeah.
Um, but finally I feel like it clicked at the end.
Well, I really also like the cast light right here. And this part of it also is so satisfying to me. And I love the feeling of the flower here. It just kind of reminds me of David Park to some degree in that part. And there's a lot of satisfying parts. And I like the male body, which he just looks like a guy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
it's just very guy-like, and I just very fun.
I was thinking about Graham Nixon's paintings, how he has, right? Isn't that Graham Nixon that has the,
I don't know who Graham Nixon is.
oh, he was a professor of my professor. I call him a grand professor, but he
Grand.
painted all of these men on the beach that were taking off their shirts, and they're these just, I I love that pose that he
Oh,
always
that's
paints.
very cool. This is a yellow painting of a swimming pool. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of these yellow paintings and what's
Yeah,
going on
for
here?
me, I love to see how close I can get the colors without with you being able to see what's going on, but hardly. I think it's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Doing a yellow painting is it's the hardest paintings I do because once you get one color wrong on the light yellow, it's like you either got to paint over white and get fix it. So it's this and encaustic are whenever I want to annoy myself, but I have to have the image. I have to know what the image is going into it, but I feel like it's just a fun challenge for me color wise.
Yeah.
This is of my pool at the gym that I've not been to in a while, but I just love this space. It has beautiful light, and it's this old gym from the mid 1800s,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just love being in this space. And this painting just felt like of all of them the most cheery and delightful and just about escapism.
Yeah, I
There's no
love
real world in this one. This is a complete departure from reality.
well, yes. Kitty wants to tell us that our cat, my cat, is having a departure from reality. Um, but then there's a lot of cats in your painting. People should look out for those too. I also I just like the various encounters, and I like the feeling in these too. Someone said this where like they can't tell if it's like an optical effect because it's just very brightly lit, or if it's a memory. And there's a lot of fun parts in here, like the pool noodle and all that stuff. That's really, really great. Yes, you're talking to us. Come over here and I'll pet you. Yeah, you might end up on camera though. You want to talk about this picture?
Yeah, this one is a similar subject that I've done before, objects in my studio, my cluttered walls, but I had fun with this one because it was a very different scale. It was about two times, maybe three
Yes,
normal scale compared
that's
to
right.
other
So it's a
ones.
very large painting, but it's actually folk, blown up.
Exactly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've almost always painted things at true life scale, not really
Yes.
on purpose, but just
I
because
thought
it
this was
felt.
unusual. I didn't think I'd really seen you do a painting like this before.
No, I one night I was sitting there and I was had an art block, surprisingly. Surprise, was stuck. And I was talking through ideas with my husband late at night after a glass of wine. I was like, okay, what if I did that? What if I did this? And I was like, wait, what if I did a similar painting to one I like, but bigger? And then that week I went into the studio and made this, and it was nice because it was familiar. I was in one of those weeks where I didn't know how to push myself far beyond subject
Yeah.
wise is a challenge I have sometimes,
Yeah.
but changing the scale felt really fresh and exciting to me.
Yeah, well, you made that point about the encaustic painting that you like to do them sometimes between shows, or you mentioned the yellow painting where it's kind of like, and that's interesting that you might have a part of the studio gym, so to speak, that you go to kind of work
Mhm.
on at various moments. I want to know, I'm a little concerned about this timeout area. I'm kind of envisioning it as the part of Raiders of the Lost Ark where they just go into the massive warehouse. It's just like
Yeah, right
full of,
now I
full of paintings.
organized it the other day. There's a pile of maybes that I'll say maybe on the side with a scale, and then I
Oh,
cut
you
out.
literally like write maybe on there?
I write
Oh,
maybe, and then
I
I have
love
to write a
I
like
love the
a
ritual. You're like, yeah,
yeah.
what, watch
I
it,
write the size and I'm
watch it,
like,
you painting.
maybe Pink Studio, who knows? But then I went through and 2 weeks ago, I just cut the canvas out of the toxic ones. And I keep pieces of them sometimes, but if they don't work, they don't work. So,
Yeah, no, it's a good way. It's faster too. It's kind of bad. It
exactly.
clarifies your ideas.
This one's just a small studio study, but
Yeah,
I love it has a painting by Emma Amos in it. I saw that painting in Boston at a museum one time, and
yeah,
I
and the
love this
Matisse.
painting. Yes, as a yeah, the Matisse portrait, but this Emma Amos painting, I love it because there's two paintings she did. One is this mirror
Uh huh.
of her looking in the mirror with this crazy hunched neck, and then there's another one of that painting on the wall with this couple dancing in front. And I just love. I was like, she did a painting in the painting. I can
Yeah.
see it right there.
Well, on
And
that same note, do you have that Matisse book where it's all the paintings where he's painted them twice? The
I
painting in
do
here
not.
is on the cover. It's very cool because
Oh,
it kind of shows you very clearly that Matisse would paint something sometimes,
mhm.
and then he'd repaint his painting to kind of
Right.
bring out other things. It's an interesting working method. It's a very cool catalog.
Oh yeah, I do that and didn't even know my master did it. Not my
Your
master, but
master.
the icon, yeah.
Yeah. What is your, do you want to talk about your relationship with Matisse? I mean,
I
I
mean,
look about a lot of people, but you do things with Matisse that I think a lot of people just don't, I don't know what to say. You tell me.
yeah, I think it's funny because I think I wouldn't say the greatest painter ever, but I think he's just the most loved painter ever. And
Sure.
I thought about that a lot. Like
Yeah.
it is so many people's first favorite painter. And whenever I saw how many people were obsessed with Matisse's Red Studio Show and how I got texted that I want to say like 100 times by people, have you seen the show? And I was like, it's so interesting. I do love this painting. Why do you love it? And I know why I love it. And I think that I love paintings that I want to paint. And I just think there's something really wonderful about the fact that, like, almost unanimously, people just love. How can you not love Matisse's paintings? They're so lively and fresh, and they feel both like you're escaping into a beautiful world while also honing in on these objects, and they feel familiar and magical. And I don't know, I just feel like it's like this theme park we all just like to go to.
Well, I think there's certain painters where, and I think those studio paintings are some of them, like late Monet might be another one, where you're just kind of like, I think after all these years of looking at painting, I've realized that some of those people, like with late Monet, I didn't really know my brain could optically do that.
Mhm.
Like he needed to show me what my brain could do.
Yeah.
So this painting is called March, and there's a lot of Kerry James Marshall in these
Mhm.
recent things, and Alice Neal too. This is
Mhm.
a great painting. We have a couple things in the chat that kind of come together. One person was just asking what kind of acrylics you use, and another person is saying. So wonderful to hear about your practice, your subject matter, and your overall approach. I'd love to hear more about your choices and how exactly you apply the paint. Flatness
Mhm.
versus loose brush work, recognizability versus abstraction. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
intentional clumsiness versus precision. Those are some of the dichotomies this person is throwing up.
As far as acrylic paint, I almost exclusively use Golden. In part, I did the Golden residency
Oh,
many years ago, which I recommend to anyone who paints with acrylic or oil because you get to use every kind of Golden paint and every kind of Williamsburg paint, and you get to work with paint technicians to
oh
learn about
wow.
it.
Oh,
So that's actually where I learned about.
what is the golden
um,
residency? Is it something you pay for?
No, it's free. You apply, you have to pay for your travel, but Golden Artist Color Residency, it's for
Really?
a month. I went in March of 2020, so I had to leave early, obviously. But even just in my 2 weeks there, it was incredible. And you just learn so much. So after that, I have this loyalty to Golden, and I have a combination of their thick paints and their thin paints, just depending on what I want. And as far as deciding the texture, I mean, my favorite parts of paintings are when they come together quickly and when they're brushy and loose.
Yeah.
Some parts inherently to me, it feels overworked, but I think that it ends up just being a balance of that on the canvas.
Yeah.
As far as detail goes, it's more like how interested am I in that piece of the painting and how
Hmm.
detailed do I think I need to be?
Right.
Like this one here, like that book on the table, it's open to this book called Alma and the Beast. If you have a
Hmm.
kid in your life, buy them this book. It's delightful. And I felt like for that, you don't need to know exactly what it is. I don't need to give you every detail. But when it came to the face in the mirror or the names on the books, like those do need a little bit more information because I want you to know what they are. Um, I think that some things I like to go as loose as possible I I will never paint all of the strokes on a leaf, but like meticulously because I don't that I'm too impatient and I don't think that it lends itself to the painting. So I try to um do as much as needed and as little as possible.
Well, to some degree, also, I mean, does it really connote flowerness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I
Flowers are really challenging, and the more
yeah,
you get
flowers
in
are
there,
hard.
the more it just drags it down sometimes. And
I mean, the best flower painter in the world is Mary Fedden. That lady, she can paint a flower, and she's just the best flower painter. Some of my flowers are taken directly from her flowers. I
I
must
don't know who this
confess.
is. Mary Fedham?
Mary Fedden, she's a painted in, I want to say Bristol. Lived there most of her life. Not famous, not very famous. Too famous for me to afford her work. I've looked at her prints, but her flowers are just they're perfect. I'll send you some pictures.
Oh, cool.
But
That's awesome.
yeah.
And then there's a lot of it being New Orleans. There's a lot of mother and child stuff going on these
Mhm.
days.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's just I think my favorite Madonna and child paintings are ones when she was breastfeeding because I just
Yep.
think it's so awesome to have a breastfeeding picture in a church. I'm just
Yeah.
like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about reality. Be real. And so we're just gonna getting towards the end here. Is there anything that we haven't talked
Oh, look,
about?
Mary Fedden book. See right there on top under the
Oh
flowers.
yeah, so I saw that and I didn't know who it was because
Yeah.
obviously the Deran book I know who that is.
Yeah,
Aha,
yeah,
well, that's explained because I've literally been talking about this picture with people and I don't know what that book is. That's really funny
yeah.
because I
Yeah.
know the trip to the lake
Hmm.
and I can see and I think about kind of Goodnight Moon or something like that as well as the Matisse studio and this feeling of the door closing right as you're leaving
Hmm.
at night and then yeah I but and the yeah the painting of the sunflowers and then the
Hmm.
sunflowers themselves. And
Yes. Now the
very
sunflowers are dead and they were alive before. Yeah, exactly. So,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I love, again, like the night painting started with me trying to do as monochromatic of a painting as
Yeah.
possible. And night lends itself to that. And yeah, this is just a classic. I normally don't do messy walls of paint on this in the studio, but this one I was like, let's show what my wall actually looks like. So
Yeah.
that's
And
what
it
I did.
pairs well with this one, which always reminds me of the Joan Brown things on the carpet paintings, which are the late 50s paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably one of my loosest paintings I've ever done.
Yeah.
I love it in part because I painted it the entire time, almost the entire time on the phone with my best friend.
Oh,
I'll
wow.
talk to her in the studio sometimes, and it was just like I had to add those bright red nails because that's a very Ruth thing to do. Um, but it's just one of those paintings that I have like the process of making it was so fun
Yeah.
that once the phone call was over and I was like, I did a couple more things, I was like, this just has to be a painting that I made while talking to Ruth.
That's so great. Well, is there anything that we haven't chatted about that you might like to chat about as we kind of move to the end here?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I feel really grateful to have been able to make this body work and share it. And I am now on that stage again of like, what am I going to make now? How am I ever going to make a painting again? But
Well,
it's going to be fine.
if people have, this
Um,
is a great one. There's at least six blues in this painting.
yeah, this blue one is
It
it's
almost feels neon. It has a weird neon feeling to it, which
yeah,
is
it
really
kind of
nice.
hurts your eyes sometimes to look at.
Yeah, it's a really great painting.
I almost moved studios this year because mine is very poorly insulated, but I just couldn't. I just love it too much. So I stayed, poor insulation and all.
It looks so New Orleans, like everything about it, and I have no doubt that it's poorly insulated. I could just see it. It really looks like it's
Yeah,
just like
you can feel the
cards that
wind
are
blowing
tacked
in
on.
there.
That's so great. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, and thanks for everybody for coming. It's really been such a great year, and if you have any questions about the paintings, just let us know. Send me an email. It was really wonderful to present the works in Miami, and really great to have had a chance to do Not in New York with you this year and a couple other stuff. And we're going to talk about what we're going to do for 2026. So stay tuned. Um, yeah, well, thanks for joining me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right.
This was great. All right, everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for listening to me
Yeah.
and us.